get around to starting. If you're a homeowner and you've been spending more than you can afford, today's the day to wipe out your credit card balances and start over with a much lower monthly payment. Call 1-800-CHAMPION for our Pay Down Your Debt program. It's so simple you wish you had done it sooner. And it's so effective, your life will improve right away. Isn't today a great day for a new beginning? When your bank says no, Champion says yes.
Diamonds, the gift that lasts forever. The Jewelry Factory in Norristown imports all their diamonds direct. They carry thousands of diamonds, most with GIA or EGL certs, and all at guaranteed lowest prices. 1-carat solitaires start at $5.99. The Jewelry Factory makes all their jewelry in their state-of-the-art factory and has hundreds of rings, bracelets, earrings, and invisible settings. Only the Jewelry Factory in Norristown guarantees all their jewelry to appraise for at least double, that's right, double the purchase price. Buy factory direct and save. The Jewelry Factory in Norristown.
The fastest, the best, the new Chopper 6, only on Action News.
As a public service to our late-night viewers, Channel 6 now presents a rebroadcast of tonight's 11 o'clock news.
Action News, Delaware Valley's leading news program, with Gary Papa, Dave Roberts, and Jim Gardner.
Wednesday night, and the big story in Action News tonight is the prospect of a perfectly miserable morning rush hour. Freezing rain and ice are on the way. In fact, they may already be here. Cecily Tynan and AccuWeather have the full story. Cecily?
That's right, Jim. We already have the freezing rain falling on City Avenue, reports of black ice around the Delaware Valley, and most of the moisture hasn't even gotten here yet. The action cam was in Ambler, Montgomery County at about 9:40 this evening, and it looks like rain. You can see the roads are glistening, but this is the worst scenario, black ice where it looks like rain, but it's actually a glaze of ice, and we have more of this to come. Action radar showing that the cold air has been working in, excuse me, with the moisture, and you can see how freezing rain is over the Philadelphia area. You look to the west, there's a little bit of a break in the action, but you look farther to the west, and there is a lot more heading our way. It will be intensifying overnight. As far as accumulation, we don't expect really much. This is not going to be a major snow event. Less than an inch generally south and east of Philadelphia. For the immediate Philadelphia area, 1 to 2 inches. The big problem, though, will be with the icing, not just for the morning commute, but possibly for the evening commute, and we'll check out that possibility coming up in the AccuWeather 5-day forecast. Jim?
Sounds grim. Action News will be on the air a half hour early at 5 a.m. with all the information from AccuWeather and traffic updates where the conditions are bad and where the conditions are really bad. Action News a half hour early at 5 a.m. After 3 months of testimony, the Tom Capano murder trial has finally gone to the jury. This was the scene less than an hour ago as Capano emerged from the Wilmington courthouse. We have seen Capano coming and going for so many weeks now, but tonight his fate truly hangs in the balance. The jury was charged after a marathon day of closing arguments. Delaware correspondent Lauren Wilson has been in the courtroom from start to finish today and tonight. Lauren, what has the jury heard today?
The jury heard just about everything today, Jim. It was indeed a marathon day. Closing arguments began shortly after 9 o'clock. They didn't end until shortly after 8. Then there was an hour and 20 minutes worth of rebuttal by the state. All in all, it was wrapped up about 10 minutes to 10 o'clock tonight. That's when the judge charged the jury, giving them final instructions before they could begin deliberating. Tom Capano entered Wilmington's courthouse knowing his fate would soon be in the hands of jurors. After 12 weeks of testimony, lawyers for both sides gave their closing arguments today. Prosecutor Colum Connolly spent 3 hours and 26 minutes summarizing the state's case. He called Capano's story about the death of his mistress, Anne Marie Fahey, ludicrous. The wealthy Wilmington attorney claims the 30-year-old gubernatorial aide was accidentally shot and killed by 48-year-old Deborah McIntyre, another mistress in his life. In court, Connolly reminded jurors that Capano is a politically connected former state prosecutor, saying, quote, "It's not believable that the defendant would perform CPR but would not call 911. It's not believable that the defendant, with all the connections that he's talked about, would not call someone for help. If anybody would be given the presumption of doubt by authorities, it would be the defendant." Connolly then listed major evidence that he says shows how Capano also planned Fahey's death. On that list, Capano's own brother, Jerry, who told authorities Tom dumped a body at sea, a story that Tom denied for 2.5 years until day one of this trial. The defendant says that we waited 2.5 years because Deborah McIntyre accidentally shot Anne-Marie Fahey, and he kept quiet to protect her. That story defies common sense, Connolly said. But as expected, Capano's lead defense attorney, whose closing arguments ran about 3 hours and 36 minutes, attacked Jerry's credibility, saying, quote, "You saw Jerry. He's a spoiled, lazy, rich kid who's had everything handed to him. He's a drunk. He's tried every drug known to man." Now, it's doubtful that the jurors will deliberate tonight, but they can go for as long as they like. Now, how long the deliberations will go, it's anybody's guess. Some court watchers say 1 to 2 days. Others say they could deliberate for as long as a week. I'm Lauren Wilson, reporting live on the Action Cam in Wilmington.
Thank you, Lauren. Tragedy on the tracks tonight in southwest Philadelphia. 2 men were killed when they were hit by a SEPTA airport line train just off the 3000 block of Island Avenue. Action News reporter Michelle McCormack is live at the scene. Michelle, how did this happen?
Well, Jim, the men made their way through this opening in this vandalized fence, one apparently chasing after the other, but neither man made it to the other side.
To me, this was a senseless death, totally senseless death. And I don't know, I don't even know how to feel right now.
Elizabeth Hinton looks out onto the tracks where her brother-in-law was killed, 45-year-old Mark Tyson. Tyson's uncle, Arthur Cannon, also 45, also died on the tracks that stretch under the overpass at the 3000 block of Island Avenue. Apparently, Tyson and Cannon were in a car near the tracks with their wives when an argument started. Tyson decided to walk home, cutting across the tracks. Cannon followed him, going through the same hole that was cut in the fence. But the SEPTA R1 line heading to the airport crossed at about the same time, striking the men at an estimated 80 miles per hour.
He's a paratransit driver, so you think he's a lot more cautious than anybody else would be. I can't imagine why anybody would cross a track like that. I wouldn't.
These are the first 2 fatalities of the year for SEPTA involving a train pedestrian accident. The Transit Authority says it hopes that members of the public will report any acts of vandalism so that current hazards do not become future tragedies. Live in Southwest Philadelphia, I'm Michelle McCormack, Channel 6 Action News. Jim?
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Police in Delaware say they have arrested 4 young boys and charged them with running a car theft ring. Officials say the suspects include a 13-year-old, 2 10-year-olds, and a 7-year-old. Police released this picture of one of the 11 cars the youngsters allegedly took between December 31st and January 3rd. They say the boys used pillows to sit on to make them appear taller behind the wheel. All 4 have been released into the custody of their parents. We are now 14 hours away, just a little bit less, from the start of President Clinton's impeachment trial, at least the opening argument phase in the United States Senate. And word has come that prosecutors in this trial today made contact with Monica Lewinsky's lawyers to talk about the possibility of Lewinsky being a witness. Action News reporter Vernon Odom has set up shop in Washington for a while and is with us live tonight. Vernon?
Jim, the word tonight is that the prosecutors were rebuffed today by Monica Lewinsky's lawyers and will have to subpoena her if she's ultimately allowed to testify at this trial down the line. Tonight, in a very tense Washington, we hear familiar words and familiar terms along party lines. From the White House, for example, these are trumped-up charges. High crimes and misdemeanors? No way. From the House prosecutors, mostly all Republicans, we hear this: no one is above the law, including the president. At 1 p.m., Chief Justice William Rehnquist will gavel the trial to order, with 100 senators sitting as jurors. House prosecutors will begin their case, presenting arguments for up to 24 hours to be spread out over Thursday, Friday, and Saturday if necessary. Their task? To fight the perception that their case against the president is about sexual misbehavior rather than criminal wrongdoing. President Clinton is accused of perjury before a grand jury and obstruction of justice. Experts say the House managers, as they are called, are presenting a highly circumstantial case that relies on persuading 2/3 of the Senate that a chain of events, beginning with sworn testimony in the Paula Jones civil suit through his attempted cover-up of the sexual affair with Monica Lewinsky, viewed in its entirety, lays out a compelling case for the president's ouster. The White House is expected to open the defense next Tuesday, the same day the president delivers his State of the Union address to Congress. By January 22nd and 23rd, the senators will submit their questions to the warring lawyers through the Chief Justice. At that point, the mystery begins. The White House could make a motion to dismiss the case. 51 votes would do that. The House prosecutors...
for joining us for this edition of Weather Center. I'm Sharon Rizalton. Dangerous travel being reported now as we head into portions of interior Pennsylvania. About a quarter of an inch of a glaze of ice covering many of the major cities and many of the interstates across that region. Let's show you some scenes a little further north as we head up toward New York City. Driving no picnic here either around the New York metro area. This is the scene in Westchester County where winter weather is going to make Thursday's rush hour a struggle, to say the least, for many commuters. This area, as you can see here in this video, has been seeing some sleet mixing with the snow, but as you head down into portions of Pennsylvania, it's mainly been a freezing rain event. And of all types of wintry precipitation, you have to imagine freezing rain is about as bad as it gets, because it turns everything outdoors into a virtual skating rink. It's just about impossible unless you put chains on the tires to gain any kind of traction at all. So you can appreciate folks here really going to have a tough go of it for that morning commute. And notice that the orange on the map extends all the way back down toward the Ohio River Valley. Areas like Columbus and Cincinnati have also seen a prolonged event of freezing rain. Wanted to show you the big picture first, and then I'll zoom in on a few locations. But as we extend on into the southeast, some showers and even a few thunderstorms. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning. I'll highlight that in a bit. And also the onshore flow with a new system pushing into the Pacific Northwest, promising some wet weather there. All right, starting you out first in the northeast, snowy travel around Boston, extending through Binghamton, New York, and through Erie and Cleveland. But as you travel further southward, boy, it's a freezing rain event, occasionally seeing some sleet mixing in. But the general gist of things is, as long as we have that cold air that keeps sinking southward with an area of high pressure anchored up in Canada and warm air riding up and over that dome of cold air at the surface, we are finding where the cold air is located at the surface and there's warmer air aloft, that's where the freezing rain is most prevalent, and that is where we're finding the big problems. Into Cumberland County, you may be getting a brief break right now in Pennsylvania, but already reports of some very treacherous travel along Interstate 81. Also some problems in Perry County. And within both those areas, a lot of those secondary or lesser traveled roads pretty impassable at this point. Very, very treacherous conditions just around the Harrisburg area and points just westward of that. Philly, you're getting a break right now. You look out the window and you say, hey, it's over. It's not quite over yet. As you can see, there's plenty of moisture to your south and west, and this is all going to be approaching, and you're going to find more wintry precipitation. You've already got a glaze of ice out there. Unfortunately, there is more to come. You've seen the snow mixing with the sleet and the freezing rain, as we showed you in the video, around New York City, so some pretty tough travel for you as well, and that extends all the way back out towards Cincinnati, and you can still see some of these areas redeveloping west of the Cincinnati area. I mentioned a lot of cold air in place. Boy, we're talking, this isn't wind chill, this is cold air. Now, this is the wind chill. Dangerously cold when you factor in the wind, so that if you happen to be trapped outdoors, say your car stalls or you slid into a ditch, dangerous. Please make sure that you call ahead, maybe take the cell phone or the CB with you, and let people know what your route is going to be, your destination time if you have to head out. If you don't have to head out, don't. Particularly dangerous at night because it's tougher for folks, rescue crews, to come out and spot you. In northern Pennsylvania, there is a swath here where you could find 3 to 6 inches of snowfall. And otherwise just mainly looking for 1 to 3 inches. Of course, you get south of this, and that's where we have our ice storm. In the southeast, some problems here. A severe thunderstorm warning into Jackson County. That's extreme northeastern Alabama here. But if you're watching from Chattanooga, this particular cell is moving to the east at 35 miles per hour. Could produce some very, very heavy downpours and some damaging winds, so keep an eye out for that. A few more thunderstorms in and around Pensacola. We continue to watch these blossom over the Gulf of Mexico. And finally, things winding down a bit across southeast Texas. We'll take you north now into the upper Midwest, where we have quite a snow event here as well, and plenty of cold air. The snow isn't going to tally up to a whole lot, we don't think, but you will find some blowing and drifting and reduced visibilities as the winds are kicking up, and plenty of cold air and dangerous wind chills around the Great Lakes, upper Midwest, and northern plains. Our final stop takes us into the northwest. New system moving on in, onshore flow, snow advisories into the Cascades around the pass levels for the overnight, could find up to 6 inches. Winter storm watches in effect for the west-facing slopes Thursday night as the snow levels come back down. Significant snow expected there. And significant rain. Could find up and over an inch in portions of western Washington and Oregon. So very, very active weather as we go from coast to coast. Let's go ahead and show you what your extended forecast looks like.